recently I have upgraded the version of Playwright to 1.62. Okay, so here you can see this is my one framework, and I noticed that there are lots of features introduced in the Playwright 1.62, like the new component level testing model, and there is a cancel operations with the about signal, and there is a WebP screenshots mainly for the visual comparisons. It will help, and like that they have lots of other features are introduced in the Playwright 1.62. And here I was explored the feature called retries. Okay, so the retry strategy, and that's a new feature they introduced called the retry strategy. So I have added that retry strategy in my Playwright config file. Is very simple to use. And earlier they have a feature called retries. Whenever test case failure, it will retries. Okay, so immediately it will retry. The default value of retry earlier it was like immediate. Now they introduced a new strategy called isolated. Okay, so the default immediate retries as soon as a worker is free, and but in case of the isolated run, all retries at the end. Okay, for example, if you have 10 test cases, and if you set the retry strategy as isolated, then out of 10, for example, 3 test case got failed, and the 3 will retry only after completing all the 10 test cases. So that's what the advantage of the isolated. It will help to minimize the inference with the rest of the suite, and this is very helpful whenever we are running in a continuous executions in a CSD pipeline. So the configuration is very simple. First you need to upgrade your Playwright to 1.62. After that you have the Playwright config file. You can directly add the retry strategy option. Then you can set the value here as isolated. Here I am using a separate automation config to controlling all other my flags, and here I just added the retry strategy information. So here I think I'm calling that retry strategy to the Playwright config file. So here I set it as immediate, and we can test how this will work using immediate. And I set the retry failure count as 1. Okay, so here I have 2 tests. Okay, so for the first test I intentionally made some adjustment to the object locator to making the case fail, and the second case will pass. Okay, so let's see how this configuration will work. The strategy will work using immediate and also the isolated. I'm running this test with the immediate. So in the case of immediate, as I mentioned, whenever a test case fail, immediately it will retry. Okay, so yeah, let's see how this will work. And I just started the execution, and now you can see the job started here. Here you can see the job started. This is my first test case. In this case, actually I'm clicking on the my account. After that is looking for the login. Okay, for the login object I intentionally made a change. Okay, so definitely this test case this will fail. Okay, so that is exited. And now as we set as retry strategy as immediate, again that same test case started. Okay, so here you can see it's again clicking on the my account and it's looking for the login. So that's what the retry strategy immediate. So it will retrace as soon as a worker is free. Okay, so that's the concept. As I mentioned, I have 2 test cases. So one test case executed and it is failed, again retried, again failed. Now this is my second test case. So in this case, this is a normal flow. I didn't make any changes. Definitely it will pass. Okay, so and let's see the reports how that is coming here. So here is the report. Now you can see this is executed and also retried. Okay, and now we can go to our second strategy, that is the isolated. Okay, so we can set the retry strategy as isolated, and trigger the same test. So in this case, definitely whenever a test case fails, it won't immediately execute. Okay, it will execute only at the end of all the tests. Okay, that's the main intention of using this retry strategy here. So the test started. As I mentioned, the first test definitely it will fail. After that, we need to check whether it's going to the second test or is going to retrain the same test. So this is the first session started, and that is failed. Yeah. Now this session is started again. Let's see whether it is retrying or is going to the second test. As we mentioned the retry strategy as the isolator, right? Now you can see this is going to the second test. Okay, again a third session started because I have two sets are completed. So this is the retry for our first test. So that's what we have the retry strategy isolated. Okay, so this is the way we can utilize the retry strategy. This is very small feature, but I feel this is very helpful feature. Okay, for a long running test suits. So you can also try out this feature. Yeah, thank you.